Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Funnel Vision Show, where we interview some of the top agency owners, some of the top marketers. We understand their secret sauce to help grow businesses. And today is no exception. We have an amazing guest today who's going to talk to us not just about how to market in North America, but traveled all over the world from France, now living in Toronto, I believe. Her name is Jade Caillot. Jade, thank you very much for being on the show.
Hello, Michael. Thank you very much for the invitation. I really welcome that opportunity and I'm looking forward to our chat.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to dive into all sorts of things when it comes to marketing. I know you're a self-taught marketer. You've learned from just diving into this. You've done marketing in France and in Rome, and you've been all over the place. So I'm very excited to understand that. But first, let's start with what we normally start with, which is your not so humble bragging rights. In other words, what have you been able to do for clients? What have you been able to do for your own business? What are those like highlights that you can just dust yourself off a little bit and shine a little light on?
Absolutely. I'm going to start with something that everybody knows. You mentioned that I was an international worker, so to speak. I've had the pleasure of working with the Eiffel Tower on their B2B expansion since they actually privatized some of their spaces. So Eiffel Tower and the Arc de Triomphe were some of my clients at one point. So very, very badass, if I may. It was a very intense experience. It was quite wonderful. What I have noticed throughout working with chateaus, with museums, is that the people with the most titles, even sometimes, which was interesting, are the people who have the simplest way to talk to you and just bring up what they need. And that's with them that you can work the best. Literally just bring up things, ask questions, try to dig in their issues, their opportunities, and try to make things happen that were never done before. I actually created also the first agency that was working for historical heritage places, including the Eiffel Tower, historical monuments, etc., before COVID. So that was pretty nice. And I'm soon to be a Forbes featured growth consultant as of December. So that is quite exciting. And I'm delighted to be in North America. It's clearly the place I want to be right now.
Congratulations on that. That's super exciting. And yeah, like we said, you're just outside of, or in Toronto. I'm just outside of Toronto. So we're excited that you're here in North America and in Canada. What about your own business? Tell me about your agency. Tell me what made you start your agency. Let's take a step back. You've worked on some pretty incredible projects. So walk us through a little bit of your journey.
So my journey was very much, I kind of followed opportunities that were thrown at me or that I seized when they presented themselves. I didn't have a plan originally. I literally just started working and learning and playing around with a few things and saying, hey, I like data. Oh, analytics is amazing. Oh, I know I have the creativity for content and strategy because I was not trained into a specific way. So I was able to adjust to every single person I was talking to align everything with them and what they wanted. And so along that journey, I started meeting more and more people who were telling me, hey, this is worth it. You should do something with that. So I just said, okay, I'm going to start that small thing first and see where it leads. It's going to be interesting, a learning experience. And the first thing is that I'm convinced that you invest on yourself first and you invest in yourself. So I started investing in myself first. And I was like, sure, I'll give it a shot. Eventually, I started having other consultants who came to me and said, Jade, we do the best work when you are leading the team. So you need to make this bigger because we want to continue doing this with you. And so that's how we started making it a bigger and bigger deal. And now we literally run the show for marketplaces. We don't attach ourselves to a sector. We attach ourselves to a type of clients who is just willing to do the work, willing to work with us on this very personal journey of theirs and their business, because we don't decide, hey, we just want to work with SaaS, for example, because that would be reductive. And honestly, we probably would be bored considering the personalities that we have in the team. But so that's how it started. And so the actual structure, the way it exists, so it's called ELLEVATE with double L. I know you have a lot of Elevates in North America. Back when I created it, I had no idea I was going to end up in North America. It was a very big last minute personal project. So I'm now rolling with this. It's mostly operating in France and Europe right now, but now expanding to North America as well. So that's where we are at right now.
So when did you start the agency?
The agency on paper started about a year and a half ago, but I have worked on and off with those people for about 6 years now. I've been in marketing for about 6 years.
Okay. And when you decided to start the agency, what was the tipping point? What was the reason you're like, you know what? I've been in marketing for 6 years. So 5 years, 4.5 years, you were in marketing, working for somebody else. And at some point, you're like, I'm going to do this. Why?
I think I just didn't want to feel limited by other people's ideas. And I wanted to create something where the people I was going to work with were going to thrive doing their best jobs, having the security of a leader who would literally just listen to them every point of the way and make sure they had that sort of stable anchor so that they could go out there and rock it and make an amazing work. I also knew that in order to really make a difference for bigger businesses and to help more companies, I needed to have a foundation that was a lot more structured and solid than what I had being on and off on my own. So I decided that I wanted to have that foundation because basically, like every cathedral needs a strong foundation to go higher and higher. So I took it upon myself to basically just give it a shot, and successful so far, clearly. Very excited about it.
That's awesome. And you mentioned data, you mentioned you like analytics, you mentioned you're very creative. So what do you do for your clients?
Okay, so what we do for our clients, we have a wide range because we adjust everything to exactly their need. But to give you a sort of overall view of what we do, we take the business where it is. And we have this moment when they say, we really just want to go there. We always thought it was impossible, or we were not sure. We don't really know who we want to talk to, or we know who we want to talk to, but we haven't been able to create an actual connection, like meaningful connection with that audience. Or we're still really early on, but we really want to make a difference and have an ROI that accelerates really quickly, basically. So they will come and they just want to grow, if I make it really like a rough draft of what I want to say. What we do is that usually I audit the leader as a person, which could sound totally weird, but I really just sit down with that person and try to evaluate where they want to go, how feasible it is, and the way they want to do it. Because a lot of them might be, so I want a great hack. And it's like a hack doesn't mean anything in its own, like it's not a thing. It's okay, cool, you want to hack. You want to hack what? Like, anyway, so it's mostly about hacking his own brain to start with, to see where they want to go. Then we actually go towards each manager of each thing. So the business development manager, the marketing manager, if they have one, and actually try to talk with all of them as well to understand their strong points and how they can help the business grow by being who they are and getting better at it. So basically, we have this overall vision of everything. And then we can create a growth strategy for them that will be super, like 100% aligned with every piece of that puzzle that the business is, in order to have something that creatively works. Because it's like asking someone with like short form video, yeah, do short form video right now. This is the best thing you can do. And the person is terrified at cameras, for example. It's never, ever going to work. And they have nobody to do it. Yeah, just the money spent in order to find someone or coach the person who is supposed to be on camera, it's just going to be not worth it at all. So we go for the fastest return on investment using what we already have in the house, technically. So we try to bring everybody on board with that strategy. And then we basically plan everything. So strategic planning of everything. So the team knows where we're going. The leader actually is totally on board and will be a very strong asset into this, because they're going to be the like tipping point. They're going to be the captain of that ship. Even if we make everything happen, we will be there with them, whispering in their ears so that they can stay in charge, stay the full leader, and become the leader that they want to be, to bring that ship where they want it to go. So this is basically it. So our signature offer is technically what we call the accelerator. So basically, we become that whispering power in the ship, and we bring on experts depending on what they need immediately, what they might need in 3 months. And we adjust everything depending on the ROI that they generate each step of the way. So you're going to totally edit that blah, blah, blah out. It's going to be wonderful.
I do have a question when it comes to, so your agency's been around for a year and a half, and you've faced challenges, I'm sure, and you've had some ups and some downs. One thing that I know from operating many agencies, having worked with many agencies, there's typically this challenge that occurs when it comes to doing custom work. And basically, when you go and say, I'm going to do bespoke, it's everything is tailored to you as a business. Either I need to make it very systemized and productize and go and deploy this system for SaaS companies or whatever, and then I can keep my costs relatively low. Or I need to work with pretty big clients because now the budget needs to be relatively big because everything is custom. And once everything is custom, it means that there's a lot of, you can't productize as much. That means that my pods and my team is more. So have you been able to navigate that so far?
So, what I decided to do very early on was basically to have calls when I introduced to chat with the client for the first time. So, introductory calls when we have a very quick audit on everything they have. So, to give us a very immediate idea of what is possible with them, because by now we know it's, do you have time to invest? Do they have money to invest? Do they have time? Depending, we'll offer them a different path. So very early on, we push them on a path that is going to allow us to know either they will have the money to invest, and we are very upfront with it. It's going to be minimum 40 grand. This is how it's going to go. So either you can invest it, or we have a side approach, which is more of a, I would say it's a coaching slash consulting version of it, where they might need some operational work, but that the best added value that they will get from us is high level strategy calls. So basically, we'll have points, because what really takes a lot of time is either operations, making it happen, or writing it in documents. Because you have the ideas. It's our job to look at the situation and have the strategy come up. And I read the data, I've analyzed the market, so I know that this, that are the next steps. This is not the difficult part for us. The tedious part is setting it up pretty and having a deliverable, and then having extra XYZ people to make it happen or create a roadmap, etc. Really, that's what we do. It's high-level strategy calls. That's the best way, because it's a conversation. They have a setup, they take notes, it's their jobs, but they access our brains in order to have as much value as they can, and then it's their time. Because what I noticed with all of the clients I've worked with so far, whether in historical heritage museums, chateaus, where they don't always have the budget, so I started in a market that was really cheap, clearly, is that either they have time to invest or they have money to invest. And depending, I can give them brain matter, but it's their time afterward, not mine, because this is valuable to me at that stage. Or they have money, and therefore I'll just pick up the team, brief them, and we will create a planner for this to happen, because we will know that they have the budget and will to basically invest in themselves.
At this early stage in your agency, and I say early, but you've been a marketer for a while, 18 months in, what has been your biggest challenge, and what has been the thing that you thought would be very challenging, but actually has not been too challenging?
So honestly, I thought that it's going to be a bit not what you expect, probably, because in the middle of all of this, I had a moving from Europe to Canada. So basically, I had a lot of things to manage. So this was already a big deal in my life at that point. So everything else felt smooth, because my business was the main thing I could control at that point of my life. It was the main thing where I knew what was expected, what was going to happen, and what to do to make it better or efficient. Whereas I moved and I did, so that would be the thing to keep in mind as I answer your question. What I expected to be much harder was manage to, because that's something I've always kind of not had trouble with, but along my years, it was finding the balance between taking care of my business and taking care of my client's business. Because I am unable, when I work with someone, to distance myself from their business. So I have ideas all the time. There is this funny anecdote. One of my biggest clients, it's a marketplace that puts very big businesses and high-end venues and historical monuments in France in connection to create pretty badass events. We had Samsung World who contacted them through our work on Google. So it was pretty intense, pretty nice. Anyway, I was on my bike in Toronto And all of a sudden, I knew exactly what we needed to do as a very high top of the funnel thing, because I found the hack to hack into the brain of their audience in order to get more things and get basically become the like the spearhead of making sure audiences knew that privatizing and like renting places like the Hôtel de la Marine in Paris, so those very big historical places, was something that was possible. Because so far you don't expect to be able to privatize a chateau. Chateau is easy, but like a hôtel particulier, not at all. So anyway, and I was on my bike when it happened. I was not originally thinking about this. I was just thinking about Lego, and then all of a sudden I had the idea. So this is something that is just, my brain functions this way. To come back to your original point, that is something that I always found difficult, managing that balance between being focused on my own business to grow it as just a standalone business and my clients' businesses. As I arrived into Canada, I was slightly further from them. I had the actually luck of having time, like being in a different time zone. So they were not, I didn't receive emails after 2 or 3 p.m. here because they were sleeping, except the occasional ones that call me at midnight because they have an idea, which I find actually cute and in their own way. Anyway, this was something I thought was going to be more difficult, but the move totally just made it smooth. What I didn't expect to be so difficult was that people are always like, I think there is a romantic vision of working for a cause, and this is so wonderful, we're all on board together, until there is cash that actually like starts to come and people smell that there is a lot more cash to be made. And then all of a sudden you need to handle those moments of, hey, I smelled cash, so I want this and plus and this and plus and this and plus, and then you need to handle this, whereas it was just very smooth before. That would be my latest thing, which is probably what we all go through. It's a good problem. It's not a problem. It's just a learning curve. But that was the main thing that I kind of didn't expect, I think. That was the main thing.
Yeah, and are you referring to mostly for yourself, like you're seeing opportunities everywhere and trying to juggle that, or are you referring more your clients themselves?
No, either my clients or people in the team. That was something that I actually noticed. So no, I was always very opportunity driven, in the sense that I have always an ear out. I actually really being on the lookout, not necessarily actively, but I have learned that life throws certain things at you depending on the moment of your life. And if you're not awake enough for it, you might miss a fork in the road. And that's pretty much how I go with things, trusting that I will basically always fall back on my feet, because I have always fell back on my feet for as long as I remember. This was mostly it. That's what I meant.
Very, very interesting. And I think you're not the only one as you grow an agency. That first one is something that people do find very challenging, right? How do you balance between growing somebody else's business and growing your own business? But yeah, as things move, managing all that is very important. So things we like to do as we're approaching the end of the show, one of the things that we always like to talk about, because we're all marketers here and we all love shiny tactics and little marketing hacks, as you mentioned. What is your number one best growth tactic? If you were to go to any business and be like, every business should be doing this if they want to grow because it's my number one go-to. What is that?
So what I noticed, and it really starts really early on at the pitch stage, like when you need to pitch your business, and then it continues on and on until you're really big, is that you need not forget that you're actually talking to human beings at the other end of the line. And so either you were talking to them in a room, and I was at a French tech event yesterday night, and so I listened to a few pitches, and eventually I started chatting with another attendee, and I said one of them only out of 3 found a way to hook the audience early on, talking about something that was already in their lives and mentioning it was about it was cybersecurity, and it was audio cybersecurity, which nobody has done so far. And in order to make it pop in our lives, they said, because clearly, who gives a secret? Who writes down a secret? No, you actually spit it out loud. That's how you mention secrets to other people or little plots. And it was so true, because you can totally right now picture yourself last time you told a secret to someone. And then you're hooked, because it gives you the energy and the focus to actually continue following the conversation. Because it does take energy to just pay attention for that long, even if it's 5 minutes, if it has nothing to do with you. You want to be the hero of your own story. So I think that was the example for the very early stage. The bigger you grow, the hardest it gets to keep in touch with this, because you have a lot of automation, because this is the best way to pay less, to have more done, and you need to scale. Keeping that in mind, that you're talking to a human being, so always bringing back what it changes in their lives, and the fact that they just bought something, but it's not thanks for buying this. It's we're so happy you did, because now it's going to change your life. Because no matter what a business builds, it has a purpose, which is going to be to change something. So it's reminding each other. I mean, something I usually say is growth is the human factor. It's remembering that either inside the business or the target are humans. And keeping that in mind is the key.
You're 100% right. At the end of the day, it's very easy to get caught up in clicks and revenue and page views and numbers. But behind all of those numbers is an actual person, and you're building an experience for that person. You're selling a product or a service to that person. You're getting that person results, whatever it may be. And it's true. If you keep that in mind, it will help you grow. So that is a very good one.
I'm just going to add something very quickly. It's also going to give you a lot of, credit? I don't think it's the exact word. With management. Yeah, with management and executives, because this, exactly, but also they will get it. Because if you come to someone and say, I'm so sorry, this didn't get as much clicks, but people looked at it. And I had the case it was for a client, and we had digital coaching for one of their clients. And the first thing I said was, clearly on your product page, people have very strong feelings, because either they stay on it and they stay a long time and then they buy, or they arrive and they leave immediately. And the person burst out laughing and they said, that's exactly what we have face to face. So I'm not surprised. This is because I had put actual words on people. It was not just click and engagement rate. And this really allows you to connect with your client, and your client with their clients as well. So it's just a loop of human
interactions.
Absolutely.
Jade, thank you so much. This has been a very enlightening conversation, and very inspiring to remember that at the end of the day, this game, as much as we love marketing, at the end of the day, it's people on the other side, and you clearly embody that. So where can people learn more about you?
They can learn about me on LinkedIn, Jade Caillot. I know it's difficult to pronounce for North American. I'm sorry about that.
I know, in English, especially. Yeah.
Exactly. So on LinkedIn, on the website, ELLEVATE.fr, and just through email, jade@ELLEVATE with 2 L's.fr.
Okay, perfect. We'll put those in the show notes. And thank you very much for taking the time.